This isn't the normal Spurs rewind that you normally see with Joe Garcia and Vicky and John. So we're gonna take over. We're taking over the Spurs rewind. Sweep the League Radio. Sweep the League is taking over Spurs rewind for Project Spurs, brought to you by DraftKings as well. Rudy Campos Jr., The Rock joining me, Rocky Garza, talking anything, everything, absolutely, totally Spurs basketball. We got a lot to talk about. Spurs ended up having a game last night against the Raptors. They're in action tonight, I believe, against the Celtics. We're getting DeJounte Murray back, apparently. So he's coming back off of the health and protocol that he was dealing with for the Spurs. Becky Hammon is not a coach of the, well, she's a coach now. She's going to finish out the season, but she's a new head coach for the Las Vegas Aces of the WNBA. We've got a lot, man. Rock, you've got some topics you want to bring to the board. Also, kind of the COVID talk a little bit about not only with the Spurs, but NBA. Hopefully, it doesn't affect the San Antonio Spurs on this episode of the Project Spurs Rewind. Again, brought to you by DraftKings. Rock, man, you've got some stuff that's happened today. A couple of things. I want to get to that towards the end here. Let's tease everybody because not only are we going to talk a little bit about it now, you're probably going to talk about it on the show Sunday, which is Sweep the League Radio on 9:30 a.m. The Answer from 7 to 9 p.m. But you had a porch incident today that someone took something. Give them a little bit of detail on that before we get to Spurs talk here.
So yeah, I was at Frost Bank and my mom gives me a call like freaking out and she's like, "Hey, like someone stole our package." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "No, like someone stole our package," and it literally happened in the span of 1 minute. And I felt so bad because it was my little brother's package and he just recently got a job and he's saving up for a PC gaming set and he bought a PC gaming card, $6 worth, and this person stole it. And I
Wow.
was freaking
Wow.
out, trying to go full FBI, but the story turned out good. Somehow, my older brother and my dad, luck of the draw, they found him at HEB, cornered him in, and got the PC card back. And they took off, but luckily my brother and my dad weren't hurt, but we got the card back.
Hey, it's a good thing. It's bad that it happened, but it's a good thing you got it
Mm-hmm.
recovered. Speaking of recovery, man, Spurs are on a road trip. Last night they played against the Toronto Raptors. Final score: San Antonio Spurs 104, Raptors 129. It was the Fred Van Fleet show, 33 points, 7 assists. He had a couple of boards. Not a very good showing by the Spurs. They were shooting, I believe it was 25% from 3-point range, shooting 43% from the field. It's not bad, 43%, but I saw a lot of people talking on Spurs Twitter about Keldon Johnson, saying that he's continuing to struggle. He's not the type of player that people were expecting to have. They were expecting to have a good year. He's not the type of player they're expecting to see right now. They're expecting a lot out of him. Yes, you're talking about Keldon Johnson, who is a gold medal recipient with the Olympic team this past summer. What's going on with Keldon, do you think? I mean, I honestly think he's still developing. You can't really say, oh, he's got an Olympic gold medal. He's supposed to do this, he's supposed to do that. He's the next face of the franchise. You can't really say that. The guy is still young, he's still developing. It's not like he went out and played multiple, like a bunch of minutes and multiple games with the Olympic squad. He wasn't getting majority of the minutes there. So we can't really say he got all this Olympic experience. But yet some people are still trashing him in a way because they're not getting the Keldon that we're supposed to get. How you feeling on this Keldon Johnson talk, man?
I think it's just unfair to him because I mean he's been having these high expectations ever since Kawhi left and he was included in that trade. So when Spurs fans saw him make the Olympics, you saw his rise and his improvement in his game from last year to this. People expected him to take that next step. They deemed him as the next Kawhi. They expected him to take over the reins once DeMar left. But if you look at it, when DeMar was here, he benefited from having a star like that. He got more open looks. Defense didn't really focus on him, so he was able to do things at ease. In the Olympics, when he had the minutes, you're playing with a bunch of all-world NBA stars. I'm not saying that he's not a good athlete, not a good star, but I agree with you. He's still developing, and we just have to realize, that he's not gonna come in and be that main star. I mean, maybe he could, but we don't necessarily know. But we still gotta trust what Pop and the staff is doing. And also, it doesn't help that DeJounte hasn't been inside the lineup, and he's been one of the main contributors this year. So, I mean, when you're putting more of the offensive load for him, maybe he's not used to it as well. But I mean, it's going to come in time. People have bad slumps. It happens all the time. You saw Derek White recently get out of the slump, and Spurs fans were giving him crap for it. But I mean, it is what it is, man.
It is, and I like I said, Keldon Johnson, he's had more brilliant games than he's had really bad games. It's just you're not getting people. I've heard people say you get to 20 points per game. He's supposed to be averaging 20 points. He's supposed to be averaging, right up around 19 points a game. He's supposed to be doing this. Supposed to be doing that. You're not going to get the consistent play from Keldon right now. He's still a young player. I don't buy the fact that just because he's got Olympic gold around his neck, that he's supposed to be this next superstar type player. It doesn't happen just like that. You know what? Christian Leitner came out of college. He was on the original Dream Team. He got all the experience too, playing with all these guys. He turned out to be a bust. He had a one All-Star year, and that was it. I mean, you're talking about probably the greatest college basketball player of all time, just being a complete bust in the NBA. I think you're right. People got to chill in the Keldon talk. I mean, I understand he only had 6 points last night in 29 minutes. He was 0-5 from three. He's still developing that 3-point shot. He only shot 3 of 13 from the field, 4 assists, 4 boards, 3 turnovers. It wasn't a great game, but we got to lay off of it. This team is still young, and you're right. The absence of DeJounte Murray, who's supposed to be coming back tonight against the Boston Celtics, makes a world of difference, man. DeJounte is the all-star of this team. Go out there on Twitter. I believe it's what NBA all-star. Is that what you have to vote for? With
Hmm.
hashtag NBA all-star, hashtag DeJounte Murray. Get him in the all-star game. He to me, he's deserving of it the way he's played. I mean, the way he's played this year, he is deserving of it. But yeah, we've been seeing this Spurs squad really, really struggle without DeJounte. Getting him back tonight's going to be definitely, a really big boost for this team. Speaking of last night's game, man, what jumped out at you from last night's game against the Raptors? I mean, it just to me didn't seem like the Spurs were in sync. It was just one of those bad nights. But when you've got a guy like Fred Van Fleet just go completely bonkers, it's going to be games like that. You're just going to have to chalk it up to, oh, well, it's a night like that. But I also noticed that they were playing in front of nobody because I believe the whole Canadian COVID thing's been kicking off, so they're not allowing fans or something like that. But not only that, the biggest thing is how did you feel about the Spurs team? Because me personally, I think it's just one of those games that we haven't seen from the Spurs. When they lose, they don't get blown out. They've been competitive in just about every single game. And this was one of those games where you get every single year where you get blown out by the other team. What were your thoughts on that, Rock?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I wrote in the Spurs preview for this week for Project Spurs that the Raptors were going to be debuting one of their lineups they recently played against the Knicks, and coincidentally, they blew them out as well. The lineup consisted of OG Anunoby, Pascal, Scotty, Fred VanVleet, and Gary Trent. So I mentioned that Fred VanVleet said that he loved that lineup because there was mismatches along the whole perimeter, and those defenses and Pascal, OG were able to break it down and just kick it out to Gary and Fred. That's exactly what they did last night. Once they crashed down, when Pascal was crashing down, Fred was wide open, splash. But it's just, like you said, it's just one of those games. The defense looked lackadaisical a bit. It does, as I keep mentioning and reiterating, that DeJounte. It doesn't help that DeJounte wasn't there, but he did have Jakob. Jakob came in, he balled out, showed out, and we had a little flash from Josh Prima, the Canadian man himself. But I mean, we're always going to have those games, and it's just kind of inconsistent on what the Spurs really look like this year. I mean, the Spurs look, as we saw 2 weeks ago, they were having flashes. They were rising up. I wrote about it, and they were on the rise. And then they have the game where they lose against the Pistons, which was, it just happens. You just have those games, but they shouldn't have lost against the Pistons. But I had predicted they were going to lose against the Raptors. But I mean, I agree. You're going to have one of those games where you just get absolutely blown out. People are on fire, people aren't, but it just is what it is.
Exactly. It is what it is. And, we have Frank Ramirez in the chat here. He says, Spurs will be okay. A lot of people just tripping. Yeah, a lot of people are tripping. It's like the roller coaster, man. It's like the damn roller coasters that we have over at Fifth Texas. You're up at the top, you're high, then you're coming down. It's exciting. But on the way down, it's scary because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the effects you're going to get from the coaster. Everybody knows about the Rattler. You're going to have a bad back. It's kind of like that over here with the Spurs, man. You're getting bad juju and good juju all the time. It's a roller coaster ride for the Spurs team. Do you think, I think that they still have the potential to make it into the play-in game? I mean, they're showing glimpses of them coming together and being cohesive as a team. They really are. I don't like what I see in the West. I mean, we're only seeing maybe 3 teams that are going to be dominant in the West. So for them to sneak into a play-in game or even a playoff spot, it can happen. The rodeo road trip's coming up. These Spurs teams tend to gel so good on that rodeo road trip. Anything can happen here. The Boston's Hinder, Michael DeLeon, says this is his third year talking about Keldon Johnson, asking too much too soon. He's always out there playing hard on both ends, though. And that's more important than a high scoring stat line. Exactly. You've got to
I
have that
agree.
guy like Keldon that plays both sides of the ball 100% of the time. I love the way Jakob's been playing. Jakob put up 19 and 12 last night. Derek is scoring there. What I kind of like see from the Spurs too is also, like you mentioned Primo. Primo got some good minutes last night, put up 15 points. I mean, this team has the potential to get into that play-in game. So I'm thinking, are we on the same page as that goes? Because I don't see it being a tough route or tough road to get to this play-in game for the Spurs, especially if you got like guys like teams like Sacramento ahead of you. They're not going to be that great towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and an unfortunate part, COVID is putting players out, and some of them might be starting players down the road. And I mean, Spurs may get the break, and they're going to face a team that's limited players. I mean, we almost faced the Miami Heat, and Miami Heat were borrowing 2 G League players, and most likely that's a W on the Spurs end. I mean, they played a Piston squad that was depleted, and many people thought they're going to come in and easily get a win off that, but I mean, they lost. But I think down the line, yeah, I agree with you. There's only relatively 3 teams. You look at the Warriors going, and you look at the Grizzlies. Ja Morant's just going on a tangent right now. And I'm trying to think of the last team that you're referring to.
Well, see, right now I've got Warriors, Jazz, Nuggets.
Yeah,
And then, of
Jazz,
course,
correct.
the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are
Yeah,
coming on up.
yeah,
Ja's
Nuggets,
just
correct.
having a tremendous
Yeah, and then you look at that, the bottom 4 and the play-in, it's relatively a mix-up. I mean, yeah, like you said, you have the Lakers, the Kings, the Mavs. People are coming in and out of injuries, and it's just gonna be a mix-up down the road. But I think they can get into a playing game, but you have to look at the factors. Do you want to push towards a playing game, or do you want to push towards a high pick? So what are the Spurs going to do? They're never going to come out and relatively say we're not going to lose. We're going to lose on purpose. You always want to have them competitive. And going back to what Michael said about the high scoring stat line, I was one of those fans that looked at players. Well, this player is scoring X amount of points higher than this one, so he has to be better. But you got to look at how much hustle, what his defense is, what defense he brings in, and what he really is. People are putting too much expectations on Keldon. They expected him, like I keep mentioning earlier, to take over the reign from DeMar. But you see DeMar going off. But if DeMar were still here, the Spurs wouldn't be as high as the Bulls are right now. DeMar has more help than that team than what we have here.
Have you, man, the people going crazy on Spurs Twitter over DeMar DeRozan? I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
he's balling out, but to say, and I hope I don't piss off a lot of Spurs fans out there, but let's be real, DeMar on a Bulls squad and DeMar on a Spurs squad is totally different. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to see DeMar's stat line. It's actually the same pretty much. I mean, DeMar was putting up numbers here. He wasn't putting up insane stats or doing the insane stuff that he's doing in Chicago now. But you're talking about 2 different teams. I mean, yes, you had a DeJounte Murray. Over there, they have Alonzo Ball, but they also have a Zach LaVine. We don't have a type of player like Zach
Mm-hmm.
LaVine over here. I mean, you've got better. It's a better fit for DeMar in Chicago than it was for him here. If he's here, Spurs are probably looking at an additional maybe 4 wins on this team already.
Mm-hmm.
They'd probably be 18 and 18, right around the 500 mark right now. So yeah, the DeMar talk is definitely, I don't get the chatter on that too much. Frank Emerson here says, I believe they can make a play-in game. I really feel the same way, man. We're talking about the play-in game. I think the Spurs definitely can make a play-in game. I really do. It's not that far off. I mean, I'll check the standings here in a minute here, but it's not that far away from that we're thinking. I mean, they're at 14 wins. I believe 18 wins was in the play-in game, 16. So they're 2 games out from Sacramento, who ended up losing last night to the Lakers. It's not that bad. You're only staring at 3. You're down 3 wins from the Minnesota Timberwolves to get the 9th seed. I mean, everything is still it's still very early. You're going to get DeJounte Murray back. You're going to see the Spurs squad that you've been seeing when DeJounte was in the lineup. So tonight, Celtics, make it quick because you know what, man? We've taken over this show. I don't know when Joe is going to find out and realize that we've taken over Spurs Rewind and cut the cord because, I don't think he notices that we took it over and, him and Vicky are like, what's going on? What's going on? No, we hacked it. We took it over Spurs Rewind for Project Spurs today. Rock and myself. Tonight is Boston Celtics, San Antonio Spurs. Before we get into that preview, we're going to talk Becky Hammon. That's a big topic. We're going to talk about COVID coming up. And then you wanted to talk also about a little bit about draft picks as well, maybe something coming up. We're going to get into that after we get this preview for the Boston Celtics game tonight. What do you see, man? DeJounte coming back. I mean, it's a good thing he's coming back, but he's coming back off of health and safety protocol. We've seen players not only in the NBA, we've seen players in the NFL come back off of COVID lists and they're winded. It takes a while to
Mhm.
get their legs under them. It takes a while to get the breathing right. What do you think we expect tonight from the San Antonio Spurs getting a not completely healthy DeJounte, but at least getting your leader back on the floor?
I'll expect a big boost. I mean, you have to imagine the other players are excited. DeJounte's back and that leadership and production is going to be there. In the preview, I predicted that they would win, but I highlighted the fact that it's to me that Spurs are probably going to have in the back of the mind that they got to close out these games. In the last two matchups they had, dating back to last season, they were up 32 at one point, lost in overtime after Jason Tatum dropped 60 on them. This last game earlier in the season, they were up 24. The Celtics came back, but this DeJounte is the one that brought him back and closed out the game. So you have to imagine Pop is telling them close out the game because they keep blowing
Mhm.
that lead, and they've blown leads to not just the Celtics but to other teams as well. But I think it's gonna be a big boost. I don't know necessarily if Jason Tatum is back. I know he was in COVID protocol, so that might be helping the Spurs in a little edge. But you still had Jaylen Brown who dropped 50 in his last game against the Orlando Magic. So it's going to be a good matchup to see, Jalen versus Derek. But I mean, we'll have to see how much Dejounte is conditioned. I mean, it's going to be a big boost, and it's going to help other players like such as a Keldon or a Derek or a Vassell just having their leader back and just getting them going when they need it.
Exactly. And right now I'm looking at the injury report. I don't see Jason Tatum on there. Only for the Celtics is Broderick Thomas and Peyton Pritchard. Spurs on the injury report have Lonnie Walker, Dougie
Mm-hmm.
McBuckets, and Devontae Kaycock. So those are the only guys that are out tonight. So we're going to probably end up seeing a lot of Jason Tatum tonight, along with Jalen Brown. It's going to be a tough game. Obviously, the Celtics
Mm-hmm.
are a very tough team. You're playing in Boston. Right now, they're 7.5 point favorites. Getting DeJounte is going to be interesting because we've seen a little bit of an emergence of Trey Jones, especially in the starting lineup for the San Antonio Spurs. I love Trey Jones. Don't get me on record for saying that. Of course, I'm not a Duke Blue. I don't like Duke Blue Devil players, and I'm not a Duke Blue Devil fan. I'm a North Carolina fan. So, but I do love what I see out of Trey Jones. I think he's going to be a future staple for the San Antonio Spurs. But getting DeJounte, I really think that this is going to be a closer game than most people expect. It wouldn't surprise me to see the Spurs actually win this game. Like you said, they kind of been giving him a little bit of fits when it comes to the Celtics. I don't want to put my Spurs homer hat on and completely say the Spurs will win. I'm just going to say it's a close game, and the team that has the most points at the end will win this game. We're just going to make it. We're going to make it as easy as that. So
It's a good
tonight,
observation.
obviously, yeah, it's very good. Bill Walton always said, by the end of the game, the team with the most points will win the game, and it's like that's a classic Walton take there. Frank Ramirez also is in here. I believe a lot of Spurs fans just live on Spurs past, but we all have to understand this is the new blood. Hopefully going to take us to the promised land. They're going to take you as far as they can. I mean, we're not going to lie. The Spurs are still missing a few pieces here and there. They're missing a legitimate superstar. Now, I'm not saying Ben Simmons is a legitimate superstar. Nowhere near that. There's only a few, in my opinion, legit super big time superstars in this league. There's not anyone out there that the Spurs can actually go get. But what I do like from this team is that when we've seen them really dominate, it's a Spurs team that cannot be beat. But also when we seen them compete, they are in the game. I mean, you're talking about the Pistons, man. The Pistons had to take it was a game, game ending buzzer beater to win the game. I mean, you can't do nothing about that. And that's a lot of their
Mm-hmm.
games. They get close. It's just the very last second they lose the lead, they lose the game. No big deal. They're competitive. This team's going to be good. They're about a player away from two. Is it going to come to the draft? I mean, you mentioned earlier you were talking about, hey, do you take the playing game? Do you Yes, I don't want to say tank because tank's a bad word. We're not saying tank. Or do you necessarily go for a high draft pick? Personally, man, unless you're going to get a top three pick, there's no reason to play the
Mm-hmm.
whole let's win later, let's lose now type game. It's a top three pick or bust in this whole draft. So I continue just play hard, do it like the Cleveland Indians did in Major League. Get a big old poster, put the bikini under there, start ripping off clothing parts just until you get wins or whatever. I say try to get that playing game. No matter where you are in the draft, you're going to get a player that's going to fit your system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly, and I have to agree with you. I mean, personally, I'd rather see the Spurs, go towards the play in. I mean, not towards the play in, towards getting a top pick. I mean, but then you have to weigh it out. Does a top three player change the outlook of the franchise, or let's say we get a middle of the draft tier player, but we look at free agency and try to get someone or make a trade. They were rumored to be in Sabonis Miles Turner trades, coincidentally in the Ben Simmons trade still as well. And there was also Spurs tweeters, begging the franchise to go after DeAndre Ayton. So you just have to look at it and think, what did the Spurs relatively need? Do they need to get rid of their influx of guards, or should we go after, say, a Chet Holmgren, a Paulo Banchero, and maybe that brings back the memories of a big fundamental, as people compare. We have that another power forward, or are we going to keep running Keldon at the four? Play that small ball. But we just have to see what the franchise is going to have to do and where we're going to head.
I mean, I've always been a Chet Holmgren fan. I would love Chet to be in the silver and black, but that's almost a far-fetched dream. I don't see that happening. I still think this Spurs team is going to be super duper competitive. I like what I'm seeing from them right now. Like we said, there are a couple of games out of the no at the 10th spot, so that's a
Mm-hmm.
playing game right there. I just don't see the West being so competitive. I mean, they could get into the playing game and actually make the playoffs. I mean, it's it's like I got to take the homer hat. I don't expect them to win a title. I don't expect them to be world beaters. I honestly don't expect them to make the playoffs. The playing game is different, but going into the season, I pegged them at around 27 wins, 28 wins. I That was my mark. They're halfway there to 28. They're at 14 wins. What do you see coming out from that? I want to get your win total real quick for the Spurs because I still see 28 wins. I put them as high as maybe 31 right now. I don't think that makes the playing spot at 31, but it could. I mean, again, the West is not as dominant as the East right now.
I think I'm not a betting man, Rudy, but
We're not
I,
betting nothing. We're not betting
well,
nothing.
I'm not a numbers guy, you can say, but I would think 30. Like the highest I'm gonna go is like 33, and the lowest I'll go like 28, like in that range. And I think they were projected like 33 or 34 from the last projection I saw. I could be wrong
Yeah.
though, but just with the injuries, man. I mean, it's unfortunate with Doug Lonnie out. Who's relatively going to step up and shoot that three? Are we going to see Bryn Forbes come in and shoot threes and we'll sacrifice the defense? Are we going to see Derek start pulling from three again? I know he had recently been struggling. Are we going to see Keldon? Keldon actually has been improving on the three, but I mean, DeJounte, is he going to be the one that's shooting the threes? I mean, I know he's not necessarily prone to shooting threes, but I mean, 28 to 32, 33, I can see that, but we'll have to see, man. And I see what Joe
Uh,
said.
yeah, we've been busted. Joe busted us. We're not going to mention how we got the password to the live stream account. We just know that we just took over Spurs Rewind today for Project Spurs, brought to you by DraftKings. Joe and Vicky are working frantically to get it into the system to knock us off. But you know what? I've got it hacked in. We've got the guys in the back studio too. They hacked it, so we're not worried about getting kicked off the live stream here on Spurs Rewind. We've also got we got a lot of comments coming in. Three known, I'm going to say three no. I found a stat that should be encouraging for us Spurs fans. Before DeJounte's absence, a high pie percentage is highly correlated to winning, specifically if teams have a 50% or higher percentage. I found a stat that should be encouraging for us Spurs fans. Okay, that's a repeat one. Then he also adds context. A high pie percentage is highly correlated to wins, 50% or higher. I think it's the same guy, same thing doing it. Frank Amir's in here. He says 30 wins. 30 wins is good. I can see 30. Like I said, on the
There you
high
go,
end for
Frank.
me, it's about 32, 31, 32 wins would be the high end for me. I don't know if it gets you into the play-in, but it's possible. It is possible. We have here Spurs ranked seventh in the league at 51.5%. Here are the top six teams above them in order from first to last. Golden State, Phoenix, Utah, the Nets, Cavs, Heat, then the Spurs. Okay. Spurs ranked seventh in the league. Not bad. I mean, that's a good stat. I love the way the
Mm-hmm.
stats. I love that the listeners out there are giving us some stats like that. Tim Mediola is in here. I just want to hear three mo for primo every day of my life. Can we get that on a shirt, please? I mean, Project Spurs is massive. It's huge. It's probably the best out there when it comes to Spurs coverage. We got to have a t-shirt guy, right? I mean, we can get three mo for primo on a t-shirt
I
and
think Joe can
blast
make
it
something,
everywhere.
man. Joe can do something.
Joe's got a damn printer or something that I've seen him
Yeah.
posting all this stuff. He can make the 3-mo for primo stuff. Comments, like I said, comments coming in. Tim is also in here. If 30 wins get you to the play-in, they should remove the play-in tourney, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of the play-in. I have not been a fan of the play-in tournament at all, because you take 8 teams, and it worked in the bubble, but we're
Mhm.
not in the bubble no more. Go back to the old NBA. I don't like the play-in game. I don't even like the All-Star game anymore. NBA basketball, to me, I love it. I love it to death, but it is what it is. I don't like the changes that they made. I don't like the playing game. Josh Miller, the guy, he listens to us every single Sunday night. What up, man? How you doing? Definitely. Real quick, man, before we move on, Rock, playing game, do you think you should go away?
I mean, I think it's something cool. I mean, it gives a chance for other teams to get in. I mean, it's kind of exciting.
Don't lie. Don't lie to me. You
No,
hate
I
it.
mean,
You
I like
hate
it.
it. I
No,
like
I
it.
like it. I mean, I'm like if for context, I'm in favor of expanding the college football playoff. I like that, so I like the play-in. It's more teams that get to play. You see upsets. It kind of reminds me of a March Madness little thing. You never know if that 9 or 10 sneak up on the 8, and then they
You're
play,
right.
and then they get the 8
You're
seed.
right.
So I mean, it does kind of suck though, because I mean, you worked so hard for that 8 seed as a team, and then you're like, oh hey, you got to play the playing game. It's like, oh man, like why do I got to play more games? So I understand the argument
Yeah.
towards it.
That's what I look at. You work your butt off to get into a playoff spot, but you've got to win the play-in matchups. That sucks. Happy New Year, Frank, from all of us here at Project Spurs. Happy New Year, man. Hope this
Happy
year
New
is
Year,
a great
Frank.
year for you, man. The playing game, man. I get that completely, but it's to me it just doesn't work. I don't like it. I don't like it.
See, I think they remember they
You
mentioned the mid-season tournament. I didn't like that. That would have been
I
weird.
don't understand the mid-season tournament. What the hell you can do
Yeah.
with the mid-season tournament? You're trying to get a season overway, but you're gonna expand it to more games and make them play more. Forget that. This is what they should do. 8 teams make the playoffs. The rest of you scrubs, yeah, you're getting a lottery spot. You're getting a lottery spot, but go play in the NIT. Go play in a national invitational tournament. We'll give you the participation trophy, whatever. Who cares? One trophy that is definitely not going to happen unless God himself comes in and reaches down and says, "What the hell are you doing, front office?" is the trophy of future head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. What would have been NBA Coach of the Year? Becky Hammon is not going to be the coach of the San Antonio Spurs. Why? Because she was offered and accepted the head coaching spot in Las Vegas. Las Vegas, man. Now, I'm not sad in the sense that she's going to Vegas. I'd love to live in Vegas. Sin City. We can gamble all day, all night. We have fun in Sin City. But I'm sad that Becky's gone. She was the chosen one, in my opinion.
Mhm.
She was the one that was going to right the ship. She was going to be the one to lead
It
us to the
sucked.
promised land. Go for it. I know you got to plug your lamp in. It's dark in Rock's house. We're not saying what Rock's doing there. This is Project Spurs. Spurs Rewind. We've taken over for Joe. I see Joe. Joe's texting me left and right saying, y'all need to stop. Y'all need to get out of here. What have y'all done? What are you doing? You're messing this up. No, Joe, sorry. We took over for tonight. We took over. Rock, Becky's gone. First, I need
Sorry.
your first impressions on Becky being gone, man, because Spurs Twitter was up and down on all this, man. Thoughts on Becky, brother?
I mean, it's unfortunate. I really thought she was gonna get the job. We don't know whether Pop had promised her or she was just tired of waiting. I mean, she had an opportunity, and I'm sure Pop wasn't saying like, no, like don't take the opportunity for the Blazers. That Blazers franchise ended up choosing Chauncey Billups. I really thought she was going to be the next coach, but then again, we can't tell Pop or dictate Pop like, hey, you got to retire in X amount of years for so Becky can take over. But I mean, maybe
Can't you
Becky's
put a
just.
person in waiting? I mean, Coach
I mean,
K did it this year.
you could, but see, the way I see it is, I mean, I think Pop probably has relatively 3 more years. That gives Becky enough time to get more experience as a coach. I mean, she did have the experience. I'm not saying she wasn't experienced enough to get the job. You know, she was coached the summer league team, got the title. But I mean, it gives her more learning under her belt, doing her things, making those decisions by herself. instead of having Pop over her back. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I mean, if I was a head coach and I needed some advice, I'll call up Pop. I'm not saying it's bad. But I mean, she's gonna have those situations where she gets to create her own offense. She's walking into a squad that is stacked. They have the WNBA MVP on the team, and people are comparing it to kind of how Steve Kerr walked in with the Warriors. I mean, she's gonna have immediate success, and she even said in her press conference that she expects to have immediate success. They had just advanced to I believe semifinals 3 years in a row, and I want to say finals if I'm right, but I got to make sure. But it sucks, but maybe we'll see it 2 years, 3 years down the road. But we can't be ones to tell Pop, hey, retire now so we can have Becky. But you're right, you could have a coach in waiting. But once that job's opening, I'm sure Becky will get a call, and anyone around the league will want to come to the Spurs team to coach us.
We can't even get free agents here. What the hell makes you think we're gonna get a top head coaching prospect here? That's tough, man. Hey, how's that Chauncey Billups hiring going? It's not working very well. The Trailblazers are still 14-22, exactly the same record as the Spurs. Man, it's crazy, brother. It's crazy because if you look at guys that were hired, and I say guys, and I'm not making this a guy versus girl type thing, but to hear Becky say that a lot of front offices were saying that you've only been with the Spurs, and you don't have a lot of coaching experience. I mean, I do question the Chauncey Billups thing. Steve
Mm-hmm.
Nash didn't have any experience at all. I mean, that's kind of a chicken shit excuse to use when it comes to you don't have the head coaching experience. Yet she was able to coach our summer league team back to back years. She led them to a
Mm-hmm.
title 1 year. She's been able to fill in for Pop when Pop isn't there coaching as well. What the hell more do you want when it comes to her little coaching resume compared to guys that didn't have a coaching resume when it came to a Steve Nash, when it came to a Chauncey Billups? Okay, so she hasn't been MVP of the NBA like Steve Nash. So she hasn't won titles like Chauncey Billups has with the Detroit Pistons. That to me is terrible. That's a terrible
Mm-hmm.
excuse to give her as to a reason why we really are going to take this guy over you. Personally, I don't like that experience at all. I wish her the absolute best, just like Frank Ramirez said. I wish her the best in Las Vegas. She's going into a situation that is tremendous. That team with her as a coach would be wow. I mean, I was talking to actually Steven Anderson, Project Spurs as well. Made a comment about I was talking about coaching staff. I like the coaching staff. If she was to say you can have anybody you want, for Becky to say, okay, as head coach, her go get a Tina Thompson, a Don Staley, and a Cynthia Cooper as your other coaches, that you may as well give them titles for a year in every single year. I mean, that coaching staff, and I even commented that kind of coaching staff is it's good for the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got those four women as coaches, as staff in the NBA, that's a lot of brilliant minds there, man. These were brilliant minds for women. I really do wish her the best of luck. Um, it's a tough loss. It is a tough loss for the Spurs when it comes to Becky being out, man. I wish her the best of luck. Definitely. Somebody mentioned here 3 notes says Jay Wright. Is Jay Wright an option? His name gets thrown around a lot. His name
Yeah.
does get thrown around a lot. I do like Jay Wright as a coach. I really like him as a coach. Would he be my first option? I don't know if he'd be my first option right now. He definitely would be in the mix. I still also see a lot of Bill Self being thrown out there for the Spurs. Um, it's kind of hard to take right now. There's one person in waiting. Actually, he's a coach, not a coach, but he's a player development this year type person, and that's Manu Ginobili. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Manu has dabbled with. He was a player, with Pop a little bit. So could we possibly see Manu maybe taking over these coaching reins in a little bit? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I feel like Spurs fans would love Manu. Manu's the most beloved Spurs of the big three, in my opinion. You see a lot of player coaches now. Former players who become coaches. You have Steve Nash, Steve Kerr. But I mean, I think Manu could be a good pick, but it does kind of it kind of just ruins the fact that Becky has more experience than Manu. Manu's a player. He knows the game, but she has experience. She's a coach. and she's deserving of the job. I'm not saying she's not. I'm very happy for her that she got the WNBA job. She should be doing it. She's going to excel what she's doing. Like we keep mentioning, she has a very stacked roster.
Oh
But
yeah.
Manu would bring a very much excitement to the team. I mean, it's Manu Ginobili, an icon, and who would think? Like, what if Parker came to help coach? You have Tim. He was a coach, but he's not there on the bench. But he still comes every year and helps. So just imagine, you're getting coached by Manu, who's a true leader. He was willing to do anything for his team, and he would just give all that great knowledge to the team, all to the players, and all of San Antonio loves Manu. There's nothing you can say one bad thing about Manu.
I can. I can say one bad thing
What is
about him.
it?
I'm not going to say it on air. I'll say, no, you're right, man. Everybody loves Manu. Josh is saying if Manu becomes a coach, that season tickets for sure. I guess he means you and I get season tickets, right? He's going to
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
us
yeah,
season tickets.
yeah.
Okay, we're gonna hold Josh to that, and he's going to buy us season tickets for sure if Manu becomes head coach. So we're pushing for Manu. Yeah, man. I think Manu would be a great coach. I don't think he's ready quite yet. I'm not too sure on that. I still think that he definitely would be a good coach eventually, but I think he still
Hmm.
needs to get that little bit of experience in, whether it be summer league play, which I kind of have a feeling they're going to have him coach summer league this year. Josh is back in here. Spurs ticket sales will literally skyrocket. Yeah, man, I definitely would see Spurs tickets go through the roof.
Oh,
Is it
100%.
worth? Is it worth paying the amount that they are charging now? Probably. I mean, it says Rocky. Rock. We talked about this. You owe him a console, man. I mean, we've talked about this. You got to buy that console for him, man. I feel bad for Josh out there. Yeah, man. I mean, Becky being gone is definitely a loss for the San Antonio Spurs. It's going to be a tough loss, but we wish her the absolute best of luck, man. Hey, this is Project Spurs. Spurs Rewind. We've taken over. I'm looking at my screen over here, and I'm noticing that Joe has almost hacked the virus little program that we put on Spurs Rewind. So he might be turning us off here in just a little bit. So just in case we go off the air, we love you guys. We didn't mean to cause any damage, but anyway, we kind of did. Real quick, man. Let's get to some COVID talk for the Spurs because DeJounte's coming off, health and safety protocols. We've seen it kind of go around the Spurs a little bit here. Earlier in the year, we had Jakob Poeltl going through it. We see that COVID is ramping back up in the country, in the world. Actually, today we're seeing NFL players are getting affected by it. The teams are coming up on playoffs. Today, Micah Parsons was announced that
Hmm.
he's not going to be able to play this week, or he's on the list. He still has a chance to play, but he's on the list. We're seeing it affect the NBA as well. Like you mentioned, the Miami Heat had to cancel that, suspend the game against the San Antonio Spurs. They tried to steal a couple of Spurs players in the G League for us to try to get the secrets on how to beat the Spurs, but it didn't work. They ended up just suspending that game to be made up later. Is it a fear of yours that we are going to see more teams get affected by this? And how do you feel on the Spurs roster? I mean, DeJounte coming off of it, could we see the Spurs necessarily go through a little, I don't want to say like a pandemic type thing, but a little sweep of their roster as well, or we're going to see more players get it?
I mean, I can't. I don't really know. It's day by day. It's getting things are changing as we go. You never know with something's not trying to talk politics or anything or health wise. It's a false positive or false negative. You don't really know. I'm hoping the players don't get quarantined and they go through another outbreak. It's unfortunate that Lonnie and Doug are in the protocol right now, but it's just a new reality that all sports leagues are having to deal with. We had talked about on the Sweep the League radio last Sunday. What's going to happen if players test positive and they're in the NBA Finals or they're in the Super Bowl? Are they going to reschedule? Are they going to make the players play? Are they going to have, I threw out a crazy idea. I was like, what if they make them play with a mask? What if they're asymptomatic? That's just a crazy idea that I threw out. But you never know if that becomes a reality. But I think
Players,
this
players have
sport,
said they'll play with masks. Like we
yeah,
mentioned that.
and you see high school teams do that as well.
Mhm.
But I mean, you're still getting that exposure. But if you're asymptomatic and you feel fine, do you get that? Do you get that excuse? Well, let's play. You already had Adam Silver say that they're not going to stop the league because and then possibly do another bubble. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe change his mind. We do another bubble, but it's going to be unfortunate if the Spurs get that health protocol and get more players in quarantine, and you're gonna see a G League team out there, man. We're gonna be like the Miami Heat. God forbid it doesn't happen, but I,
I
I'm
hope
praying it
so.
doesn't, and it's just crazy to me how many players are getting positive, and you can't really do nothing about it. I mean, yeah, you can still get it if you're vaccinated, but I mean,
It's we don't. I mean, it's so tough to call, man. I mean, I don't. A part of me says we're gonna go through it with the Spurs. I mean, we are going through it right now. A part of
mhm.
me says we're probably gonna get a couple of games canceled, or not canceled, but suspended and have to be made up. But it's hard to say. I can't really put my mind on it. I can't wrap my mind around it because we've already seen how many guys have we had so far. I mean, we're talking about Dejounte, Jakob,
Yeah,
uh,
Jock.
Doug, Jock, Lonnie. Was Derek in health and safety protocol one time,
Uh,
or he
I
was
think
just hurt?
I think he was just hurt, but
I
yeah,
know
yeah,
last year wasn't Keldon in it. I think
yeah,
last
yeah.
year.
Last year hit him hard that one game, and they got it. I feel like they got it more worse last year.
Yeah. So I mean, we've seen about five guys roughly in health and safety protocol right now. Um, where
Yeah,
Frank's saying hoping it calms down. I hope it
I
does
do
calm down.
too, and luckily we've been, I don't want to see Pop get it. Pop's up there in age, and it's just going to be scary. You've been seeing a lot of coaches around the league getting it, and had assistant coaches, and it's just changing every day, man. You never know.
I still think that probably it's a good idea for the staff, coaching staff, to maybe just wear a mask. I I
Hmm.
I feel that was good. Um, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm at the point where I've told everybody if you do you. I don't have a say in it. You do you. Whether you do this, you do this. If you want to do this, do this. If you want to go out, go out, do whatever. Me personally, I do what I'm gonna do, and that's for the safety of myself and my family, for everybody else. But I really hope that it doesn't cause a fire of some sort in the Spurs organization and just starts running rampant everywhere,
Hmm.
and we lose multiple games. I mean, there's been NHL teams that have lost multiple games. Um, there's been other stuff that's happened that we're starting to see multiple teams just like, oh, we can't play this. College basketball, Duke was on a hiatus for a while because I think they missed like 2 or 3 games because they had a little outbreak going on.
Hmm.
We're seeing it, man. It's still around. It's something that we hope that we don't see really cause a lot of issues for the San Antonio Spurs. Praying that it doesn't happen like that. But they are in action here in a little bit. They're 10 minutes away from tip off, 6:30. We're promised we're not gonna make you miss the Spurs game. We're not about that here. We're gonna take you all the way to the very end. No, we're just playing. We'll be off here in a little bit. But overall, Rock, you wanted to talk draft picks, man. Last topic. Let's get into some draft pick talk here. Do do you? I don't feel that there's a player outside of the top three that is worth throwing wins away for. I still think you've got players out there you can get towards the middle of the draft. If you're maybe I don't know, late lottery to maybe 19th or so, 20th. There's still going to be some players out there that you can get, but you also mentioned possible trade, man. I mean, Thad Young is just rotting away on the bench there.
Hmm.
Somebody's going to want him. How do you feel about these moves? I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing to see a move happen.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, maybe you have an idea. Let's say they make the play in, get knocked out. They're ranked 15th in the draft, late or maybe a little bit higher. And then you package a player with the pick to get rid of that influx of guards, maybe throw a Thad Young if he's not traded already, and then move up. And so you get that player, you get a high pick, and so you kind of accomplish both things. You stayed competitive, those players got that experience, and you got a player that you relatively wanted. To me, the top three players in this draft coming is Chet Holmgren, Paulo Banchero, and Jabari Smith. You maybe the Spurs go after another guard that could be an upgrade from what they have. They go after a Jaden Ivey, but it just relatively it's going to come down to if the factors is the Spurs stay healthy, no injuries, and just closing out games. Man, they're just growing on the fly, and people get frustrated as fans seeing them lose games that they shouldn't be losing. But that's just part of the process. We were so spoiled as fans for decade or 2 decades, if I'm not mistaken, and one we had to realize this day was going to come eventually that the Spurs were going to go through a rebuild, and it's hard. You have endless debates on what the Spurs should do, and I just think we have to live with it. The Spurs. I wrote in an article 2 weeks ago that the Spurs were going to be coming up, and I loved it. You know, you see the Spurs coming up, and they're winning, they're growing, and then you see the Spurs tumble down, and that's just part of the process, man. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. We'll see what happens. Uh, yeah, I think we've
Yeah.
got busted, Rock. Yeah. Hi,
Y'all
Joe.
did it. Hey, what's up, man? Y'all did a good job. So
So
Hey,
well,
Joe.
we
yeah,
tried to hack it all, and we Joe finally got in. So now I guess now I've got to contact the SAPD and let them know that we're sorry. We didn't
well,
mean to
we
do
heard
this.
the. I called the police, and you could hear the sirens in the background. I think they were heading towards
Oh,
the place.
well, all
No
right.
wonder
Well,
why I heard some cops.
one of us is going to jail. I live closer to the border, so I'll be there before you, Rock. So
Uh,
I'll try to get down there. But hey, man, thank you, Joe, for letting us take over Spurs Rewind for Project Spurs, man. It's been fun. Hope you're getting better, man. I really hope you're getting
Yeah,
better.
I'm getting better, man. My voice is starting to come back a little bit. So hopefully by this weekend, maybe I can finally get back to hosting shows and getting on some podcasts. But thanks for holding it down, fellas. Y'all did good.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no
that, Joe.
problem, man. No problem at all. Well, for Joe Garcia, who hacked into the system and broke through our walls and barriers and our viruses that we planted on the system, Rocky Garza, The Rock, Rudy Campos Jr. Hey, real quick before we go, Rock, let everybody know where they can follow you on social media at.
Yeah, you can follow me at Rock Jr. on Twitter, ROCKSS Jr. JR. And I'm also the same ad on Instagram. And don't be afraid to add me on Facebook at Rocky Garza Jr.
Yes, you can see the short shorts and the rockin' Crocs everywhere on social media. You can follow me on Twitter. It's at Sweep the League. Again, Rudy Campos Jr. on Facebook. Rock and I are part of Sweep the League Radio, which is every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. You can also find Joe Garcia, which is at Two Shots Podcasts. If I'm not mistaken, I've got that down packed, don't I?
Yeah, you got it.
I got it down packed. So you can find Joe on Sweep the League Radio as well. So what I'm gonna say is, hey, get well, Joe. Just from Frank, definitely. Well, I want to burn those Crocs bad, Josh. Yeah, everybody wants to burn those damn Crocs bad. So
Who has
for
the Crocs, Rocky?
yeah,
I do.
Rock's got Crocs.
I
He's
Oh
got
man,
Crocs
maybe
on right
we can.
now.
Maybe we could do a bit where we burn them for charity, raise some funds for charity.
There
oh,
you go.
knowing that your shorts are so short, you lifting that leg like that, I hope doesn't add a
Mm,
Dennis Rodman type scene to anything here. This is a family friendly children's show, man. So for Joe, for Rocky, for myself, I'm gonna say what Joe normally says because his voice is kind of Rocky is a little raspy here. But what is it, Joe? Spread the love, stop the hate, be
kind.
kind. We're out.